My parents want to use my eco-farmhouse as a free wedding venue because my sister appreciates beautiful things, while I only care about saving the world. Posted to r/am ithasshole. I, 29M, honestly don't know where to start with this. I've been staring at my phone for an hour trying to figure out how to put into words what happened at Sunday dinner. My hands are still shaking. Some background. I'm a renewable energy consultant. I've spent the last 7 years of my life working on solar installation projects, consulting for small municipalities on their carbon reduction goals, and helping farms transition to sustainable practices. It's not glamorous work. I've spent countless weekends knee-deep in grant applications, traveled to conferences on my own dime, and taken pay cuts to work for organizations that align with my values. But I believe in what I do. Climate change is the defining challenge of our generation, and I've dedicated my career to being part of the solution. 3 years ago, I bought a run-down farmhouse on 12 acres about 2 hours outside the city. Everyone thought I was crazy. The place was a disaster. The roof leaked, the foundation needed work, and the previous owners had let the land go fallow. But I saw potential. Over the past 3 years, I've poured every spare dollar and weekend into transforming it. I installed solar panels that now generate more power than I use. I built a rainwater collection system. I restored the meadows with native wildflowers to support pollinators. I converted the old barn into a workshop where I host free classes on sustainable living for local families. The house itself is beautiful now. Exposed beams, reclaimed wood floors, a kitchen with a wood-burning stove that I learned to cook on. Floor-to-ceiling windows that look out over the wildflower meadows. I did most of the work myself, learning as I went, making mistakes, fixing them. It's not just a house to me. It's proof that sustainable living can be beautiful, practical, and accessible. My parents, 56M, 54F, have visited exactly twice. Both times, they spent the weekend making comments about how isolated it is, how I should find a real house closer to civilization, how all my environmental stuff is a bit much. My mother once literally said, "It's nice, I suppose, but you've always been so obsessive about your causes." Meanwhile, my sister Emma, 25F, works as a front desk manager at a boutique hotel. She's good at her job, and I'm genuinely happy for her success. But our parents treat her like she hung the moon. She's delightful company. She knows how to enjoy life. She brings such light into every room. I've spent my entire life watching this dynamic play out. When I got a full scholarship to study environmental engineering, my parents complained about how far away the school was and how they'd miss Emma's high school tennis matches. When I won a regional award for my work on rural solar initiatives, they forgot to come to the ceremony because Emma had a really stressful week and needed their support. When I closed on the farmhouse, the biggest achievement of my life, my mother asked if I couldn't have found something nicer and then spent 20 minutes talking about Emma's new boyfriend. I've made peace with it. Or I thought I had. I've built a life I'm proud of. I have colleagues who respect my work, friends who share my values, and a home that represents everything I believe in. Then came Sunday dinner. Emma announced that she's engaged. Her boyfriend Marcus proposed last month at some fancy restaurant, and apparently, the wedding planning is already in full swing. I was genuinely happy for her. I hugged her. I congratulated Marcus. I asked about their plans. That's when my mother got this look on her face. The one she gets when she's about to present something as already decided. "We've been talking," she said, glancing at my father, "and we think your farmhouse would be perfect for the wedding." I laughed. I actually laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Over the next hour, my parents laid out their vision. The ceremony would be in my wildflower meadow. The reception would be in my barn. They'd need me to clear out my workshop equipment, obviously, and probably do some upgrades to make the space more suitable. They were thinking 200 guests. A full catering setup. Probably a dance floor. And since Emma and Marcus are just starting out, they'd need me to provide all of this for free. But wait, there's more. We were also thinking, my father said, that the farmhouse could become sort of a family destination. Emma's always loved beautiful places, and once she's married, it would be so nice for her and Marcus to have somewhere to escape to. Anniversary weekends, that sort of thing. I sat there in stunned silence. "I'm sorry," I finally said. "Are you asking me to turn my home into a free wedding venue and vacation rental for Emma?" My mother sighed heavily, like I was being deliberately difficult. "Don't be dramatic, sweetie. We're not asking you to move out. We just think it would be nice for the family to actually use that space. You're always so caught up in your environmental projects. You barely even live there half the time. Emma appreciates beautiful things. She'd actually enjoy it. While I only care about saving the world, I said flatly. Well, yes, my mother said, as if this was self-evident. Emma knows how to relax, how to be present. You're always working on something, always trying to fix some problem. It's exhausting just watching you. This way, at least someone would actually appreciate what you've built. I looked at Emma. She was examining her engagement ring, not meeting my eyes. Emma, I said, is this what you want? She shrugged. I mean, it is really pretty there. And we can't exactly afford a venue like that on our own. It's my home. God, you're so selfish, my mother snapped. We're talking about your sister's wedding. The most important day of her life. And you can't even share your precious farm for one day? No wonder you're alone out there. You care more about your plants and your solar panels than your own family. I left. I didn't say anything else. I just stood up, walked out, and drove 2 hours back to my farmhouse in the dark. Now I'm sitting in my living room, looking out at the meadows I spent 3 years restoring, and I can't stop crying. I've spent my entire career fighting for a sustainable future. I've sacrificed relationships, financial security, and countless weekends because I believe that what I do matters. I've tried to build something beautiful not just for myself, but as a model for what's possible. And my own family looks at everything I've built and sees nothing but a convenient venue for my sister's wedding. My mother's words keep echoing in my head. You care more about your plants and your solar panels than your own family. Maybe she's right. Maybe I am obsessive. Maybe dedicating your life to something bigger than yourself means you end up alone, dismissed by the people who are supposed to love you. But I can't help thinking, isn't that what we need? People who care about the future. People who are willing to sacrifice comfort for something meaningful? I don't know anymore. I just feel so small right now. So invisible. AITA for not wanting to give up my home for my sister's wedding? Update 1. I found something I wasn't looking for. Posted 3 weeks later. I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. I wasn't expecting that kind of response. I honestly thought people would tell me I was overreacting, that I should just let my family use the farmhouse because it's just one day. Instead, hundreds of you told me something I'd never considered, that what my family does has a name. Several people pointed me toward resources about family dynamics, favoritism, and something called scapegoat and golden child roles. Others mentioned communities for people dealing with similar situations. I spent the past 3 weeks down a rabbit hole I didn't know existed. First, I want to address a few things from the comments. Yes, I'm certain my parents were serious. My mother has called twice since Sunday dinner, both times to tell me I'm being unreasonable and to ask when they can come visit to discuss logistics. I've let both calls go to voicemail. My sister texted once to say she didn't think I'd react like this and that she hopes I could be happy for her. I haven't responded. Now, for the actual update. One commenter mentioned a subreddit for adult children who've been scapegoated by their families. I'd never heard that term before in a psychological context. I thought a scapegoat was just someone who got blamed for things. I didn't realize it was an actual family dynamic, a pattern with recognizable characteristics that researchers have studied. I started reading. Then I couldn't stop. Everything made sense. The scapegoat child is the one who gets blamed for family problems, who can never do anything right, whose achievements are minimized while their failures are magnified. They're often the more sensitive or independent child, the one who sees the dysfunction and questions it. The golden child, meanwhile, can do no wrong. They're praised for existing, protected from consequences, and raised to believe the world revolves around them. The scapegoat learns to seek approval that never comes. They often become high achievers, unconsciously hoping that if they just accomplish enough, they'll finally earn their parents' love. But it never works because the family system requires someone to be the problem. If the scapegoat succeeds, the success is ignored or reframed. If they fail, it confirms what the family always knew. I read that paragraph 3 times and cried each time. Because that's my entire life. When I won academic awards, my parents worried that I was too focused on grades and not developing socially like Emma. When I got into a top engineering program, they complained about the distance. When I graduated with honors, they were late to the ceremony. When I built my career, they called me obsessive. When I created something beautiful and sustainable, they saw a free venue for Emma's wedding. Nothing I do will ever be enough because the role I play in my family isn't about what I do. It's about who I am in relation to Emma. I exist to make her shine brighter by comparison. My struggles validate their belief that I'm difficult. My successes threaten the narrative, so they must be minimized. I found a therapist this week. Her name is Dr. Okonkwo, and she specializes in family systems and adult children of dysfunctional families. I've only had 2 sessions, but already I feel like I'm seeing my entire life through new eyes. You've spent your career trying to save the world, she said in our first session. Have you ever considered that you learned early that you couldn't save your family, so you redirected that energy outward? I couldn't speak for a full minute. She's right. I've always felt this burning need to fix things, to solve problems, to make things better. I thought it was just my personality. Now I'm starting to wonder if it was survival. If I couldn't earn love by being myself, maybe I could earn it by being useful. By saving something. By proving my worth through sacrifice. Your work matters, Dr. Okonkwo said. Climate change is real, and the world needs people like you. But you deserve to be valued for who you are, not just what you do. And you deserve to set boundaries with people who can't see that. My father called yesterday. He was disappointed that I'm still being difficult about this. He said they're moving forward with wedding planning and assume I'll come around eventually. He said Emma is heartbroken that I'm choosing my farm over her happiness. I told him that my home isn't a venue, that my boundaries aren't negotiable, and that I'd be happy to discuss our relationship when they're ready to treat me like a person instead of a resource. He hung up on me. I'm not going to pretend that felt good. It didn't. But it felt true. For maybe the first time in my life, I said what I actually felt instead of what I thought would make them love me. Small progress. But progress. More updates to come. Update 2. An unexpected ally. Posted 6 weeks later. I wasn't planning to post again so soon, but something happened that I need to process. Marcus called me. For context, I've met Emma's fiancé maybe 4 times total. He seemed nice enough, quiet, polite, clearly devoted to Emma. We've never had a real conversation beyond small talk. So when my phone rang and I saw his name, I almost didn't answer. I figured he was calling to advocate for Emma, to tell me I was being selfish, to add pressure. Instead, he said, I need to talk to you. Without Emma or your parents knowing. We met at a coffee shop halfway between the city and my farmhouse. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes. Fidgeting with his coffee cup. I want to apologize, he started. I should have said something at that dinner. I knew it was wrong, what they were asking, but I just sat there. I told him I appreciated that, but I wasn't sure what he wanted me to say. I didn't grow up like this, he continued. My family is normal, I guess. My parents are happily married, we all get along, nobody plays these games. So when I started spending time with Emma's family, I thought I just didn't understand their dynamic. I figured every family has quirks. But the more time I spend with them, the more I see it. He looked up at me. The way they talk about you. The way they dismiss everything you've accomplished. The way Emma has learned to see herself as the center of everything, and you as, I don't know, furniture. That word hit harder than I expected. Furniture. Something useful but not really seen. I love Emma, Marcus said firmly. But I'm worried. I'm worried about marrying someone who thinks it's okay to demand her brother's home as a free wedding venue. I'm worried about how she talks about you when you're not there, like you're this weird hermit who doesn't understand how life works. I'm worried that the family dynamic I'm marrying into is going to affect our marriage, our future kids, everything. What are you going to do? He was quiet for a long moment. I told Emma I want us to do premarital counseling. How did she react? She thought it was ridiculous at first. She said we're fine, we don't need therapy, therapy is for people with problems. He laughed humorlessly. But I told her it wasn't negotiable. I said I love her, and I want to marry her, but I need us to go into this with open eyes. I need to know that she can see these patterns in her family and work on them. I asked if he'd told her specifically about me. Yes. I told her that the way her family treats you isn't okay, and that I can't be part of a family that scapegoats one member so another can feel special. I told her that your farmhouse isn't owed to anyone, and that her reaction to your boundaries told me something about how she might react to my boundaries someday. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Marcus looked uncomfortable. I'm not trying to be the hero here. I'm genuinely terrified. I love Emma, and I want her to be the person I believe she can be. But right now, she's been so conditioned by your parents that she can't see what's right in front of her. He asked if I'd be willing to meet with Emma. Not for the wedding planning. Just to talk. I said I'd think about it. After Marcus left, I sat in that coffee shop for another hour, staring at my cold coffee. I've spent so long assuming that my family dynamic was fixed, unchangeable, something I had to escape rather than address. I never considered that someone from outside could see it clearly and refuse to accept it. Dr. Okonkwo and I had a long session about this. She said that sometimes it takes an outsider, a spouse, a friend, a therapist, to break the spell that dysfunctional families cast on their members. Emma has been raised to believe that she deserves special treatment and that my role is to support her shine. She's never had anyone challenge that belief. What do you want from your relationship with Emma? Dr. Okonkwo asked. I had to think about it. I want a sister who sees me, who values what I care about, who doesn't treat my life as less important than hers. Is that possible? I don't know. But maybe Marcus can help her get there. I'm going to reach out to Emma. Not to give in. Not to offer my farmhouse. But to offer one thing, a conversation. Update 3. The hardest conversation. Posted 2 months later. Emma and I met at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant neither of us had been to before. Marcus drove her but stayed in the car to give us space. I appreciated that. She looked different. Smaller, somehow. Less certain. The confident, slightly dismissive sister I'd known my whole life seemed muted, like someone had turned down her volume. Marcus made me read some things, she said after we'd ordered. About family roles. About how parents can create dynamics. I waited. I didn't believe it at first. I thought it was all pseudoscience, victim mentality stuff. You know how mom and dad always talk about personal responsibility. I know. But then I started noticing things. Like how whenever you accomplish something, mom changes the subject. Or how dad asks about my job in detail but never asks about yours. Or how they've been to my apartment a dozen times but only visited your farmhouse twice. She paused. I never saw it before. It was just normal. It was normal to you, I said carefully. It was my whole life to me. She flinched. I'm not saying this to hurt you, I continued. But I need you to understand. I've spent almost 30 years feeling invisible to our family. I've won awards, built a career, created something beautiful with my own hands, and none of it has ever mattered. Because the family story is that you're the special one and I'm the difficult one. That you appreciate beautiful things while I only care about saving the world. As if caring about the future of our planet is somehow less valuable than being pleasant at dinner parties. Emma was crying now. Silent tears rolling down her cheeks. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear I didn't know. I believe you. But now you do know. The question is what you're going to do about it. We talked for 3 hours. She told me about her counseling sessions with Marcus, how the therapist had helped her see patterns she'd never noticed, how she'd started recognizing the ways she'd been trained to see herself as the center of the family universe, how she'd begun feeling physically uncomfortable when their parents praised her or criticized me. The therapist asked me to describe you in 3 words, Emma said. And I realized I couldn't do it. I've never actually known you. I knew my version of you, the difficult brother, the obsessive environmentalist, the one who's always working on something boring. But I've never asked you about your work. I've never visited your farmhouse with genuine interest. I've never treated you like a real person with a real life. She reached across the table and took my hand. I'm so sorry. I'd imagined this moment many times. In my fantasies, I was cold and righteous, accepting her apology with dignity but maintaining emotional distance. In reality, I cried too. I don't want to be your parents' version of your brother, I said. I want to be your actual brother. I want that too. We talked about the wedding. Emma said she'd already told their parents that my farmhouse was off the table and that they'd exploded. Called her ungrateful. Said Marcus was a bad influence. Said I'd turned her against them. They're not invited to the wedding anymore, Emma said quietly. Not until they can acknowledge what they've done. I stared at her. You uninvited mom and dad. The therapist helped me see that having them there, without any accountability, would be starting my marriage with a lie. I can't celebrate a new family while pretending the old one was healthy. I didn't know what to say. I have a proposal, Emma continued. I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I'd like to have my rehearsal dinner at your farmhouse. Not the wedding, not the reception. Just a small dinner with the people who actually matter. Would you consider that? I told her I'd think about it. Final update. 6 months later. Posted 6 months after original post. I've been putting off writing this update because I wanted to make sure it was real. I wanted to wait until I could look back and say, yes, this actually happened, and yes, it's lasted. It's been 6 months since my original post. So much has changed. The rehearsal dinner happened. 20 people in my barn, not my workshop, because Emma specifically said she wanted to see the space I'd created, not a sanitized version of it. So I left my solar panel diagrams on the walls. I left my seed library on the shelves. I left the hand-lettered sign that says, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." Emma cried when she saw it. "This is who you are," she said. "This is what I never let myself see." Marcus's parents came. His brother and sister-in-law. A few of Emma's closest friends, the ones who'd also started to see the family dynamic and supported her growth. And me. I cooked dinner myself. A harvest meal from the vegetables I grow in my garden, roasted squash, kale salad with homemade apple cider vinaigrette, rosemary bread I'd learned to bake during lockdown, and apple crisp with fruit from my own trees. Nothing fancy by restaurant standards. But everything made with intention, with care, with love. Emma gave a toast that I'll remember for the rest of my life. "When Marcus and I started planning this wedding," she said, "I had visions of something extravagant. The perfect venue, the perfect dress, the perfect everything. I thought that was what I deserved, what I was owed, what would make me happy." She paused, looking around the barn. "I've learned, these past few months, that I had a lot to unlearn about what I deserve and who I am. I've learned that I was raised to see myself as the center of everything, while my brother was raised to be invisible. I've learned that I took things from him without even knowing, not just things like this beautiful place, but things like respect, attention, recognition. I took those things because I was taught they were mine." She turned to me. "My brother has spent his entire career fighting for a future most of us don't think about. He sacrificed comfort, money, and conventional success because he believes, really believes, that the world can be better. That we can live in harmony with the planet instead of destroying it. That small changes matter, that local action matters, that every solar panel and every wildflower meadow is a vote for hope." Her voice broke. "And I spent years treating him like he was embarrassing. Like his passion was a personality flaw. Like caring about something bigger than yourself was somehow less valuable than being fun at parties." She raised her glass. "I want everyone here to know something. My brother taught me that people who spend their lives trying to save the world deserve to be saved too. They deserve to be seen. They deserve families who are proud of them, not embarrassed by them. They deserve to have their homes respected, not demanded." She looked at Marcus. "I'm not having the wedding I originally planned. There's no grand venue, no extravagant everything. Tomorrow, we're getting married at the Sunrise Organic Farm about an hour from here. It's a small sustainable operation run by a family that's been practicing regenerative agriculture for 3 generations. The ceremony will be in their permaculture garden. The reception will be a potluck where everyone brings something meaningful. And my brother is going to walk me down the aisle." She turned to me again. "Because the person who taught me what actually matters should be there at the beginning of this new chapter." I couldn't speak. I just nodded. The wedding was everything Emma described. 60 people in a beautiful garden, surrounded by vegetables and flowers and buzzing pollinators. Emma wore a simple vintage dress she'd found at a consignment shop. The flowers were locally grown, seasonal, nothing shipped from far away. The food was abundant and imperfect and made with love by everyone who attended. My parents weren't there. They'd been invited, conditionally. Emma had written them a letter explaining everything she'd learned in therapy, about the family dynamic, about scapegoating, about the ways they'd hurt both of us. She'd asked them to attend one family session with her therapist before the wedding, to begin the process of accountability and healing. They refused. They said she'd been brainwashed by Marcus and me. They said she was throwing away her family for political correctness. They said they'd never speak to her again if she went through with this circus. Emma cried for 2 days. Then she held her head up and got married anyway. That was 6 months ago. Since then, Emma and Marcus have settled into married life. They bought a small condo in the city, nothing fancy, but theirs. Emma has thrown herself into learning about sustainability. She started composting. She convinced her hotel to switch to eco-friendly cleaning products. She reads books about climate change and texts me questions at odd hours. And every other weekend, she and Marcus drive out to my farmhouse. Not as guests expecting to be entertained. As volunteers. They help me with whatever I'm working on. Planting cover crops. Building raised beds. Teaching workshops for local families. Last month, we hosted a group of middle schoolers for a field trip about renewable energy, and Emma spent 3 hours showing them how worms turn food scraps into garden gold. She was covered in dirt and absolutely glowing. "I never knew this could feel so good," she told me afterward. "Doing something that matters." We've started volunteering together at a local environmental nonprofit. Emma handles community outreach. She's genuinely good at connecting with people, at making them feel welcome, at explaining complicated concepts in accessible ways. It turns out that her people skills aren't just about being charming at dinner parties. They can be tools for something meaningful. Last week, she brought me coffee while I was writing a grant application. She sat down across from me and just watched for a moment. "What?" I asked. "I'm just proud of you," she said simply. "I don't think I ever told you that before. But I am. You've spent your whole life doing something hard and important while your own family made you feel small for it. And you kept going anyway. That's incredible." I didn't know what to say. So I just said thank you. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, her scrolling through volunteer sign-up sheets, me drafting budget projections. Just two siblings, in a farmhouse one of them built, doing work that matters. I used to think that being seen by my family was impossible. That the roles had been set too long ago, too deeply, to ever change. I thought I had to choose, either accept being invisible or cut everyone off entirely. I didn't realize there was a third option. That people can grow. That the spell can be broken. That it sometimes takes an outsider, or a crisis, or both, but change is possible. My parents still haven't come around. They've sent a few bitter texts, made a few accusatory voicemails. They're holding on to the story that Emma was stolen from them by Marcus and me, that we poisoned her against them. Maybe they'll change someday. Maybe they won't. That's not something I can control. But my sister sees me now. Really sees me. And I see her, not the golden child, not the charming one, but Emma. A person who was raised in a dysfunctional system and who's doing the hard work of unlearning it. I'm still a renewable energy consultant. I still believe that what I do matters. I still spend my weekends writing grants and hosting workshops and trying to make the world a little better than I found it. But now, when I look out over my wildflower meadows, I don't feel alone anymore. I feel like someone who matters. Not because of what I've accomplished, just because of who I am. That's all I ever wanted. TLDR. My parents wanted my eco-farmhouse as a free wedding venue for my golden child sister. I said no, discovered I'd been the family scapegoat my whole life, and went to therapy. My sister's fiancé saw the dysfunction and insisted on premarital counseling. My sister did the work, uninvited our parents, had a simple sustainable wedding where she publicly acknowledged how she devalued me, and now we volunteer together at environmental causes. I finally have a sister who sees me.